Welcome, everybody, to episode 104 of the Standing 8 podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Soria from Los Angeles. Collaborating with me on this very special episode is Gary Kittleson of 3D Boxing Blog. Be sure to follow him at 3dboxingblog.com and also on YouTube. How are you doing today, Gary?
I'm doing well. I'm excited to get to talk to J-Mac. I actually met you. You probably don't remember. This is years ago, early 2021, I guess it was. It was the 2020 Nationals in Shreveport, Louisiana. I go there to cover a lot of the Texas fighters. I was there. I was unremarkable. You probably don't remember me, but I was there, and I remember the name, right? So I saw you. You don't see that name too often, so I definitely remembered you. It's good to see that your professional career is starting to pan out. It's starting to work. I know you're 28, so I'm excited to see what you're planning and how quickly you want to start moving forward and fighting world class opposition.
For sure. Yeah.
So again, we're very excited to have this upcoming welterweight prospect from Union City, California, representing the Bay Area. He joins us with a record of 7 wins, 0 losses, 4 wins coming by knockout. The one and only Jacob Macalolooy. Welcome to the program, sir. How are you doing this evening?
I'm great. Just getting ready to weigh in tomorrow, so get my weight down a little bit, but I'm still feeling good.
Now, it's almost been a half a year since you fought from your last fight. How difficult? How was that process? How difficult was it to finally find that matchup for this Saturday?
I was originally supposed to fight in March, so it was pretty tough when that fight fell out because I had put in a whole camp and everything, and I didn't end up finding out until like the Sunday or Monday before the fight that the opponent fell through. So it's always tough to deal with something like that, but I got a lot of other good things going on in my life. I got a healthy family, so I'm
awesome.
I was too blessed to let something like that get me down. So it's still good for me to get a fight camp in and get the progress out of a fight camp, and just got me that much more ready for this one.
And your pro debut was back in August 2021. You were really active in 2022, fighting 3 times that year, 2 times this past year in 23. Looking through your 7 fights so far, the one aspect that sticks out to me is that your wins were split almost evenly between either a knockout or a unanimous decision victory. Your thoughts on the fact that you've been winning all your fights in such a dominant fashion, leaving no doubt in the minds of the viewers?
I think it's super important to, especially on the rise. You see a lot of up and coming prospects, fight guys that are not very good and just kind of padding up their record. But I feel like my management team and my promotional team has gone out of our way to find tough opponents for me, and I'm still able to put on dominant performances. I'd love to knock everybody out, but my last 2 were unanimous. But just having solid opponents in front of me and still being able to dominate, super important. And not only that, but just to put on a show for the fans, because I think that's the number one most important thing.
Awesome, I wanted to ask you about that, if you don't mind. The first thing, I went back and I watched everything I could watch on YouTube. And the first thing you notice is, okay, wow, he's got pop. He's got real power. So I got it's like a 2-part question. It's like a double-edged sword. Do you want to get the knockouts to capture all the attention and really get on people's radar? Or is it better to go the distance and test yourself in longer fights? I mean, do you want the knockouts because they're more spectacular to get yourself noticed? Or would you rather go the distance and test yourself with those extra rounds?
It's not necessarily one or the other. I just want to go out there and, if what I've learned is that if you go out there looking for the knockout, that's kind of when it doesn't happen, versus when you just, let the fight come to you and just, fight your fight and, be sharp. Then that's kind of when it just comes naturally. But it's great. It's great when I go the distance and I'm able to get that experience. You see guys who go, you see a guy like Berlanga who goes 16-0 with 16 first-round knockouts. He's only got 16 rounds under his belt. That's not great, by the time he wants to fight against, top dogs. So for me, to be able to get those, all those rounds, that experience in rounds, it's great in the long run for my career. But it's nice to get that highlight knockout too. I'm definitely, I'm not going to be looking for it, like I said, but waiting for it to come. I haven't had a knockout in my last two fights. The last guy that I fought was the first guy to not go down. So even in my other two, I on my sixth fight, I actually didn't get an official knockdown, but I did knock him down, and the ref called it as a slip. But if you look back at the fight, I hit him. I hit him with a check hook that dropped him. But the ropes kind of caught him, and the ref said no. But I thought it was a pretty clear knockdown. And then my other non-knockout before that, I had dropped the guy in the last round, and and that was a 4-rounder. So if I would have won one more round, he would have been done for sure.
It's one thing I did notice, like you said, you just watch your tape and you know that your power is real. But you don't seem to like really fall in love with your power. Like you said, you've gone the distance. You can box with people. What kind of, because a lot of fighters, especially in your stage of their career, when they can hit like you can hit, that's all they want to do. So like mentally, is it just from your amateur or how are you able to stay composed and not just load up looking for one big shot?
Just staying smart. I mean, it's not really a good strategy to just be going all power all the time. I like to pick my shots. I like to, save it up towards the end, stay sharp, I focus more on, having a defensive mindset. I think defense wins championships. If I want to last long in this game, my defense needs to be impeccable. And so that's the number one most important thing is, boxing is not just hitting, it's to hit and not get hit. So if I do my best to not get hit, the counters will just naturally open up and my shots will be found. I'll pick the smart shots. And as they start landing, as we started getting into more rounds, these guys aren't going to be able to keep taking shots from me down the stretch.
I read that, and people who know you best, you come from a very, very versed martial arts background, and the thing is, boxing wasn't your main focus initially. It was wrestling actually. Going through those different phases, would it be fair to say that your martial arts background kind of put you ahead of schedule when you transitioned into boxing?
Yeah, I have a lot of just fighting experience in general, and I feel like it pays a lot towards my fight IQ, even though I only had, less than 15 amateur fights and before I turned pro. I really, in my mind, been fighting my whole life. I've been wanting to be a professional fighter ever since I was a little kid, and I've been competing in karate and kickboxing and MMA and wrestling, throughout my youth, and being able to compete at a high level, at the highest level for, college wrestling, and to really just be, an elite athlete, not only an elite athlete but an elite martial artist and an intelligent martial artist. Really, thinking about the fight game in a philosophical way, and really just, this is my master work. This is my whole life's work right here. I put it out there out in the ring. I put on a show for everybody. So, man, this is years and years and years of work that's come down to this.
Not only years, but generations prior. Like I even read on an article from the San Diego the world renowned San Diego gym that you joined.
The arena.
You're right. That your father, he was a pioneer of a hybrid martial arts called Kaju Kenbo, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Was he one of the pioneers? Was he one of the founders, or he pioneered that?
No, that's not my grandparent. Like that was like part of the whole video, but that was just showing. It was kind of confusing there because everything came out of Hawaii, and
Right.
when my grandparents came from the Philippines, they all stopped in Hawaii, and then made their way to California. But no, my dad is a pretty prominent black belt in the Kaju Kenbo community, and it's pretty small community. I mean, the country combo's only been around since the 1940s. But yeah, those 5 guys that pioneered it. That was kind of just part of my whole bio. But that's not my blood right there. It's just my grandparents were, my grandpa and his brothers, and even grandpa on my mom's side. They're boxing in the Philippines. Trying to just make their way up to amateurs in the Philippines, or just make money as prize fighters fighting on the streets, trying to make it out the slums of the Philippines.
Yeah, I feel that. I'm going to piggyback to Gary. If you have any follow-up questions.
I wanted to ask you about that. I had watched an interview with you. You're talking about as a kid in elementary school. I think you said when Pacquiao beat Morales, and it was like you got to enjoy that, right? As your family's from the Philippines, your heritage from the Philippines. My mom's from Italy, and I watched Natoro Gatti as a kid. Like I kind of had some other fighters. I kind of had that same connection. What would it mean to you? And there are other great Filipino fighters, Donaire, Tapales, right? But what would it mean to you, and as a Filipino, to capture a world title, right? Because Filipinos have a great fight history. What would it mean for you to capture a world title and to be a world-class fighter?
I mean, it would be amazing, not only for, the Filipino community. There's some good Filipino fighters now. After Pacquiao, we got obviously Donaire, and, we got some other guys coming up, like, Mike Sayo is doing pretty good too. I don't know. I feel like I'm a pretty good, poster boy for the Philippines. I could potentially be a big face, not only for the Philippines but for all of boxing. And beyond boxing, it's to be somebody that could bring on fans outside of the boxing community and make them fans of boxing. I feel like that's what really a superstar is. Somebody like Michael Jordan, Steph Curry, who brings fans from outside of the sport to make them fans of the sport. That's what I aim to do. And I feel like I've already been doing that with my whole community, and not only putting on for the Philippines but for the Bay Area and for my hometown, Union City.
I wanted to ask you, obviously you love to fight. If I read your biography correctly, you went to Columbia? That's where you went to school?
Yes.
So obviously you're a very smart guy. You went to Ivy League school. So I always find it interesting. You don't have to fight, right? You could have a cushy job with a desk and a tie on, but there's something in you that you love to fight, right? Obviously you grew up fighting all different types of martial arts. Did you know as a kid I wanted to be a fighter? Or when did it click, like, yeah, I have these options, but I really want to test myself. I really want to fight. Like, when did you kind of realize that I'm a fighter?
Man, probably since I was like 8 or 9 years old. I've always dreamt of being the baddest man on the planet. That's pretty much always been my dream. Before that, I had one dream before that, was to play in the NBA. But
you realized you were 5'6", right?
Yeah. That's probably not gonna happen. But I still love playing basketball. I love to watch basketball. But obviously I'm a fighter, and it's just always been in me. My dad grew up heavily. I just grew up in his martial arts school. His younger brother, my uncle, was a professional fighter. So it's always just been a family thing, and it's just always been in my blood. And yeah, it's just what it's always been. That's always been my thing. I've definitely just graduated and left my dream aside. And I'll tell you what, all my friends that I graduated with at Columbia make a lot more money than me right now. And I could have definitely been doing that, but
yeah, but you can beat them up, so right.
Yeah, some of them they're all D1 wrestlers also, so they're pretty tough too.
That's true.
But yeah, I'm following my dream. I'm developing a foundation. I'm watering my roots right now, and give me a couple of years, and soon all the fruits of my labor will start to come to fruition.
You're playing the long game, obviously, and that's the most important thing.
Yep.
At one point in recent times, you once sparred with Errol Spence Jr. in his prep for Manny Pacquiao, which obviously fell apart. You were there to mimic Pacquiao style.
Mhm.
With your experience fighting him, what how did you think Spence was going to approach Pacquiao if that fight were to happen from your experience training with Spence?
You know, I think Spence was just gonna, play his game regardless of who he's going up against. The way that the sparring was going, I was really doing my best to mimic Pacquiao. Like, I fight both sides. So I was, staying southpaw, and I was studying. I mean, growing up, I already kind of know how many fights. But I was
Mm.
really like paying attention to like the Thurman fight and kind of the combos that Manny would throw. And when I would throw those combos, I would kind of be getting them. So I was like, obviously I still have, some loyalty to Manny, but I'm trying to help this guy out also. And, they're paying me good money to be out there in Dallas sparring, and they're good people, Either way, I didn't really, it didn't really matter to me how the fight ended up. But I was just feeling like after all the rounds of sparring, like, man, if it was, had Spence fought the Manny that beat Thurman, I think he would have really had a hard time. Now, the Manny that lost to Ugas, Spence would have mopped him up. Um, so, yeah, I just, everything seemed like it was fine by the end of the camp. And then, we went home. We were supposed to go to Vegas for a week and, get like maybe a couple more sparring sessions in Vegas. And we got the call that his eye was messed up. And, yeah, we didn't know what happened.
Now, you've sparred with Crawford too, correct? You've sparred with now, having first-hand experience with both of them, did you kind of guess that Crawford-Spence fight was going to go down like that?
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was pretty obvious. I felt like, having been in there with both of them, what was going to happen. I had sparred with Crawford first, and I was out there in Colorado, and he does 4-minute rounds too. So I hadn't acclimated to the altitude yet. By the time that his fight fell through, so I only had like 3 sparring sessions with Crawford. But it was pretty clear, the difference between me sparring Crawford and me sparring Spence. But I also had the experience of sparring with Crawford that I took with me to go against Spence also. I thought it was gonna be a closer fight for sure. I thought Spence was gonna make it harder. But I did feel like Crawford just had more tricks and was just the stronger, better IQ fighter. A lot of people think, Spence was like all bigger and had more power, but I've never felt like that.
Going back to our previous, we were discussing about that American Filipino star. I think this would be a great opportunity for you to carry that flag. Do you kind of feel like there's been a void in recent memory that we need that kind of market? That American Filipino. I don't want to say poster boy. I'm trying to find out a better term, but how excited would that be for you to fill that void in the near future? How excited are you about that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know if there's anybody that's really a Filipino American to take that spot. I mean, obviously Donaire was pretty solid, but he's on his way out or is out. Yeah, that Filipino boxing fans are definitely looking for it. You see how popular YouTube boxer Salt Poppy is, and
Right.
I enjoy watching him, even though it's just the YouTube boxing. But he's pretty funny. But it definitely shows that there's like kind of that thirst for it. And I will gladly be that person and take that spot.
I mean, he could represent the smoke, and you're the fire. So the smoke
Yeah.
to the fire. So I mean, that's how
For
I
sure.
look at it. So, Gary, any follow up? Any question?
Kind of want to just ask you about your position at 147. 147 has always been south of heavyweight, the glamour division, right? It's been home to all the big fights south of heavyweight division. And I don't want to say that it's weak right now, but a lot of the names, Crawford, Spence, Virgil Ortiz, they've moved out of the division. And there's a new breed of welterweights coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And, obviously Virgil already left it. So it's like boots. My question is, do you see a clearer path now, right? Like there's not all these Danny Garcia, all these legendary names, all these old heads who have a fan base and that there's a clearer path for you now to the top of that division with kind of those legendary names either retiring or out of the division?
I guess so. I never really think of it like that. Even on my way in, like, first turning pro, if you're like, oh yeah, how you feel against, sparring with Bud, sparring with Spence. But at that point I already knew, like, by the time I get to title shots, that those guys are going to be done or those guys are going to be up. But there's tough guys coming up from 140 also. I feel like the guys coming up from 140, they're big name guys, but I don't know. I don't think that does.
Any name, any? I mean, I know you're just 8 fights in, but like I said, you've been moved pretty quickly. There's a decent level, like for someone who's had what 7 fights. Alvarez, you have decent names. Like, you're not being moved slowly. Obviously, someone thinks highly of you. Is there a name that you think in the near future that you'd like to step in the ring with? Like someone in specific, like a name in particular? Like, I'm ready for that guy. I could beat that guy right now.
Honestly, no names really come to mind. I wish I should have had a hit list ready to call some people out right now. Feeling like kicking myself right now, thinking I should have some call outs. I just feel like I have to make myself more marketable and kind of just get myself a couple more fights to, become a bigger name because I do already feel like I could hang with top guys, but it's just like, why would they take that fight? Why would they take a big risk fight against me when I don't even have, when I'm not that famous, or if I don't have a lot of money behind my name yet? Why would they take that risk? So I think once I get to like 10-0, get a couple, little continental titles under my name, then I'll start to be able to, get those bigger name fights. But right now I'm kind of in that middle ground area where it's getting harder for me to find opponents. But man, anybody could get it. Anybody at 47 could get it. I feel confident in myself. I feel like I can beat the best man out there.
So would it be fair to say that's your main problem right now is just finding those opponents willing to fight you? And once you get that quota up, the attractiveness of fighting you will be there as well. Would that be fair to say?
For sure.
Right on. Also, I want to pick your boxing brain about this upcoming Saturday's fight. Riyadh season. We got Tyson Fury versus Alexander Usyk. We've been seeing the theatrics and the promotion of this fight, for the undisputed heavyweight status. Give us your take on that fight. Who do you see winning that fight, and in what fashion?
I'll say it's a pretty 50-50 fight. I don't know. I feel like it's hard for me to bet against Fury, even though he looked really bad against Ngannou. I feel like he just didn't really train hard for that fight. He kind of didn't take it seriously. I feel like he's training really hard for this one. Obviously, it's the biggest fight. The biggest fight for him is we haven't had an undisputed heavyweight champ since what, Lennox Lewis? It's been a minute. So if I'm not a betting man, but if I had to bet, I would put my money on Fury. I just think he just got like that X factor, like Usyk is just like a all around full package fighter. And he's all around solid, nothing bad to say about him. But, sometimes same thing as, similar to like Crawford versus Spence, 2 great fighters, 2 all around fighters, but one that just got a little bit more of an X factor. So, I wouldn't be surprised if Usyk won, but if I had to put my money on it, I'm going with Fury.
I kind of share the same sentiments. I think, he's very all around Usyk, but I think Tyson's that ceiling that I don't think Usyk could crack in that division. Gary, are your thoughts on that fight?
I'm going to be the minority here. I think Fury's best. I know that Usyk's actually a year or 2 older than Fury, but Usyk is a physical specimen. Fury's a guy that's not really taking great care of his body over time, so I think Usyk has more in the tank. I'm leaning towards Usyk. I think for the first time, Fury's going to be in with a guy that can outbox him. Now he's got to do it differently, right? He's got to get in and out on him because of the size disadvantage. But I'm leaning towards if Fury can't knock him out, I'm kind of thinking that Usyk can outpoint him. I think it's going to be very close and very competitive, but I'm leaning towards Usyk in this one.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that happens either.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. So I want to go back to this Saturday's fight. So just to get it in detail, this Saturday, at the legendary Fox Theater in Redwood City. How anxious are you? Yeah. Do you know much about your opponent? I know it's kind of been last minute, but have you been able to see some videos, some of him?
Yeah, I seen one of his last fights. Nothing special.
Special.
He's gonna come forward. His style is gonna play right into my style. He's gonna leave himself open. He's gonna throw a lot of punches. He's gonna get caught.
Oh,
Though he's been fighting. His box record is solid. You look at, not the best record, 5-3, but everyone that he's fought, 7-0, 8-0, 6-0, 5-0. All undefeated fighters he's been fighting, and beat a couple of them. Had a draw, with one of them or something like that. So, tough opponent. Similar to my opponent from my 6th fight, Alvarez. He had the same type of record. Wins, losses, and draws against all these undefeated fighters. So, man, big props to those guys for, being a B-side fighter and taking all these fights against, undefeated guys. Yeah, he's going to be running into a real one on Saturday, though.
I mean, someone has to play that. For fights to happen, someone has to fill that B-side. It's just the state of the fight business. Gary, any questions regarding this upcoming Saturday's fight?
Yeah, I just want about your routine. It's fight week. Obviously, you're 48 hours out or so from your fight. What is your fight week like, and what's your routine the day or two before the fight?
Man, I'm just making the weight. The hay's in the barn. I've been putting my work in. I'm 2 camps in now. Thought I was gonna fight in March. When it didn't go through, I relaxed for a couple weeks and then put myself right back into camp. So, I wasn't really starting from ground zero. I was already in pretty good shape. I've been sparring. So I'm pretty much coming out of a nice long camp. Pretty much finished up, all the hard work by the end of last week. And then coming into the beginning of this week, I'm still, getting runs in and, burning those calories. But, mainly just getting the weight off. At this point, I'm not working too hard. I'm just, getting my sweat going and cruising it out to keep my body fresh. It's way different now than when I used to be a college wrestler. We used to, still go super hard week of, even up to the day before, going pretty hard. But I've learned now to let my body rest and to let my body recover and be real fresh and real sharp come fight night.
I have a twisted question opposite of Gary. So post fight, what's your splurge out meal just to reward yourself? Like, what do you love to? What's your guilty pleasure as far as food? Anything?
Man, recently I've definitely been getting into some tacos. Love me some tacos. Get some tacos, maybe some wings, and then probably some ice cream too. I definitely have a little sweet tooth. I love some ice cream.
Wow, that's awesome.
How's the weight cut going? And is 147? Is that the weight you're going to be at? For the near future?
It's never easy, but it's never too hard. I got it down to a science. I stay hydrated. Monday, Tuesday, I'm losing a lot of weight, but I'm drinking it and eating it all back. And then by yesterday, Wednesday, I start to, not drink as much back. And then today, I'm really not drinking much back. So I got it down to a science, though. I got it all planned out. I got everything written out, and I'm right on my plan. I'm actually a little bit under, so I'm feeling good.
I wanted to ask you this because I went to a college that had a really good wrestling program, and like the wrestlers, I was an amateur, and they gave me some good tips on cutting weight. I wanted to ask you: is the cutting weight procedure as a wrestler in college and as a professional boxer? Are they similar, or are they two different approaches to cutting weight?
I mean, it's pretty different because, I'm cutting a lot more weight fighting because I have more than 24 hours after I weigh in to rehydrate. Versus wrestling, sometimes you're wrestling 1 hour after you weigh in. So definitely have to start closer when you're wrestling and not dehydrate as much. So it's pretty different, but I would say the wrestling one is harder, especially, you got to wrestle 1 to 2 hours after you weigh in, and then you got to do it week after week after week. That mentally gets real tough. That makes you hate the sport a whole lot. It's like, why you start to think, why am I doing this? But with a fight, I'm cutting more weight, so it's harder. But right when the weight cut is done, I don't got to worry about, like, okay, I can only eat and drink so much because I don't want to have all this food and liquid in my stomach when I step out there. So, like I said, I got everything down to a science. I weigh in, I rehydrate myself, I eat good, eat the right things, and come fight night, I'm a machine.
Well, there you go. Well, very excited for you for this Saturday at the Fox Theater in Redwood City. Before we end it, any closing shout outs you want to give out? Your podium is yours, Jacob.
Oh man, I got like a million sponsors. No, I got like 20 something, and they've been supporting me. So if you go over to my page, you'll see all the love that I get through my sponsors. But shout out to my team, all my fans out there supporting me. Shout out to my family, my wife, my kids who got to deal with me cutting weight all week, and got to deal with me being out for camp, and just my lady holding down the fort while I'm gone, and being able to deal with me being a hungry, thirsty man for a couple of days.
Being a rock star out there.
Sure. Yeah, and just holding it down. So man, my whole family, from my parents to my grandparents, my uncles, my aunties, I'm so blessed to have a big family and to have, people who are not my blood that I consider family, all supporting me in so many different ways. And man, I'm just super blessed to have the support system I have. So I definitely couldn't be where I am now without all this love that I'm getting. So man, so blessed, super appreciative of everybody in my life that's rocking with me.
On that final note, the casual viewer, whenever they see someone fight, they only see you, your opponent, and the ref, but they don't see that support network that's around you, behind the scenes, your family and your close day ones. Explain to us the importance that has played a big factor in your continued success so far.
Yeah, man, they're all in my corner. Their spirit is with me, whether they're at the fight or not. I got all that love, all that support, going right there into my corner, coming in with me to the ring. When the going gets tough, if I find myself in a tricky situation, like I have before in a fight where I still get down into deep waters, I got all of that. It's real. I don't know. It's hard to say, but that energy is real. And especially now that I have these Bay Area fights, the energy is right there in the room with me. And I got, hundreds of fans in there with me, cheering me on and in my corner and giving me all that energy that I need.
That's awesome. Gary, any final thoughts or any final questions you may want to direct to Jacob? Go ahead, Gary.
That was an honor. It was a privilege. It was a privilege to get to speak to you. Looking forward to watching your career develop and how far you can take this. I always got to ask this: predictions and thoughts for Saturday night. How's it going to end?
Oh man, I'm getting the finish for sure. Maybe round 5, maybe round 6. I'm gonna have my little show going for a few rounds, and I'm not gonna be able to take the punishment all the way through.
Well, there you have it. Jacob Macalolooy for episode 104. Thank you, sir, again for taking time out of your busy week schedule for joining us. Again, this is Aaron Soria from Los Angeles, Gary Kittleson from 3U Boxing. Special guest here with Jacob Macalolooy fighting this Saturday at the Fox Theater in Redwood City. I'm Aaron Sorial, 3D Boxing, Jacob Macalolooy. Have a good night. We're out. Peace.